Pedrosa's Honda, slick tyres at the moment, but some very concerned faces around him. Alberto Puccias has a word in his ear. We're now looking at Shinya Nakano and Kawasaki. They're using the Bridgestone tyres. Danny Pedrosa takes his helmet off. Oh, Mark, this must be a very worrying time for riders and teams.
Well, it certainly is. I don't know what will be going through their heads at the moment, but hopefully I'll be able to get a chat with a couple and find out what is actually going on in their minds at the moment.
Danny Pedrosa starts from pole. We don't need to tell you what a week it's been for Spanish sport. Danny Pedrosa winning in China, Barcelona winning the Champions League, Alonso winning the Formula One race, and how Danny Pedrosa would like to start this fresh week with another Grand Prix victory. Sensational ride by him in China to win that first Grand Prix. Shinya Nakano looks up at the sky. He's qualified second fastest on the Kawasaki. Oof, you wouldn't want to be a rider in this situation. At the moment, they're sticking to slicks, but all eyes appear upwards. What is it going to do? Mike Trimby, the secretary of IRTA, has a word with the Kawasaki team. Now that to me means that, well, I'm sure definitely the race won't be delayed, but at the moment, Mark, I would imagine it's going to start as a dry race, isn't it? Well,
at this stage, but I'll just standing beside Loris Capirossi, just have a quick word to him. Loris, what's going through your head at the moment? If it was fine 10 minutes ago, now the spots of rain have started.
Yeah, I think it's that condition is so difficult for everybody to the choice tire, you know, but in the warm-up lap we see in the back of the track we have rain and we are not. It's so difficult to take a good choice, you know.
Would you be hoping for rain after what you did this morning in warm-up?
Yeah, sure, for us rain is better, but with that condition for sure it's dry race and we will see what happens.
All right, best of luck.
Okay, thank you.
Loris Capirossi, former 250cc winner here, and like all the riders concerned about the weather conditions. We had a look at John Hopkins. Hopkins, brilliant performance to qualify on the front row of the grid on the Rizzler Suzuki. I don't think he'd mind it wet, would he, Mark? Because Bridgestone tyres certainly seem to go so well in the wet conditions.
Yeah, certainly. I'll try and get a word with him in a moment. Stuart Shenton's just having a quick word, but Loris said what we can't see out there, that there was rain on the track at the back of the circuit, and what would be going through their heads at the moment. But I'll try and have a quick word with John Hopkins. John, you had a quick look at the back of the circuit. How it's all shaping up?
It's raining pretty hard at the front of the circuit up here, so
Well, you'll be doing a bit of a rain dance. It might have been answered, wouldn't it?
No, I was actually hoping for a dry race, you know, because I think we're looking pretty decent either way. So, you know, I want it to be one or the other, not this half and half stuff, you know.
Yeah, it must be hard to make a decision.
Yeah, it's very hard.
All right, we'll leave you to it. Have a think.
Hard to make a decision. I think John Hopkins has got it absolutely right. We look at Marco Melandri, in the second row of the grid. He's looking up in the sky. Everybody is looking up into the sky, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it seemed to have stopped here, but like they're saying, they've been around to do their siding lap, and they've seen a lot more than we have, and now with a bit of wet weather, you just don't know what they're going to be thinking. Can't actually tell you what the tyres they've selected at the moment, because obviously the tyre warmers are on there, just trying to keep as much heat in them as possible. Mike Trimby walking around, talking to all the riders at the moment, just trying to work out a decision, and obviously the main aspect of this is all safety, so that's primarily in the front of everybody's mind at this stage.
Well, let's just clarify the situation. If it starts as a dry race, Mark, a white flag can go out, and once the white flag goes out, it does mean the riders can come in and change machines, which means they would, in fact, be changing tyres, doesn't it? If it's declared a wet race, it runs all the way through.
Exactly right, so that's what they're trying to decide at the moment, so maybe that white flag doesn't come out, but the more it goes on, just with this smattering of water, it probably will start as a dry race, and then who knows what's going to happen in the next 40 minutes.
Well, it was a rule that came in at the beginning of last season. We haven't seen it happen yet. In Portugal last year, the white flag went out, but nobody came in. So everybody's quite excited, actually, to the thought of them coming in and having to change bikes. That's apart from the teams, one would imagine, and probably the riders. Valentino Rossi, 7th fastest, 3rd row of the grid, but 0.8 of a second down, so don't rule him out. Colin Edwards got a good record here at Le Mans. He's 9th fastest. He's on that 3rd row of the grid with his teammate Valentino Rossi. 3rd here last year. Started the race also from the front row of the grid, and of course a great result in China where he finished in 3rd place.
Well, speaking of him, I've got Colin Edwards right with me at the moment. Almost a smile there, mate, but there must be a lot of things going through your mind like everybody else's at the moment.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we just wait and see, you know. I mean, it's I guess it's inevitable. It's going to happen one of these days, this flag-to-flag thing that they've come up with. So, you know, I don't know. I'd prefer a dry race, obviously, but we'll wait and see what happens.
What do you do to try and sort out a setup in a situation like this?
Well, I mean, we got our setup, our dry setup, and if we come in to change bikes, the other bike will obviously have the rain setup. So, you know, with rain tires on it. So we got it under control.
Well, hopefully we can see you at the front again like we did last week.
I'll be there.
That's a good vote of confidence from Colin saying he'll be there, and hopefully he will.
Colin Edwards talking there to Mark, and Mike Trimby, we just heard in the background, really having a strong word with the riders. I don't know exactly what he's saying, Mark, and I didn't get a quick word with Michael, just find out what he's actually telling them.
I don't know if he'd be willing to divulge anything at the moment either.
I think he probably will. I think he's just telling them, I would imagine that it's still going to be a dry race, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, at this stage, it looks like that cloud is going further away, as basically down pit straight at the moment. So it's actually brighter here now than what it was 5 minutes ago.
Nicky Hayden, not a good qualifying for the Kentucky kid, but he leads that World Championship. And every time he looks at those championship charts, he must give him such a lift. He's qualified 10th fastest on the Repsol Honda. He had a really good dose of the flu as Nicky Hayden. Really what he doesn't want. But World Championship points at stake this afternoon, and perhaps even if he doesn't go out and win the race, he'll be very, very fired up to score vital points to at least keep that lead constant.
Well, I just tried to get a word with Mike Trimby. He said, "You're joking, aren't you, Mark?"
There you go. That's my fault. I apologise. Casey Stoner, as we talked about him earlier, he may have only qualified 11 fastest this time round, but he has had a sensational start to his MotoGP career. 5th in China last week after some off-track excursions and plenty of excitement. 2nd in Turkey 4 weeks ago. Fabulous race with Marco Melandri. Almost won it. A pole position in Qatar. 20 years old. Really, the world is at his feet. And he is going to win a Grand Prix before the end of the season on that LCR Honda.
I've got Kenny Roberts Jr. with me. Kenny, with the performance of the new bike, how are you handling the new frame?
This one, we learned some stuff last race that kind of already made this one kind of extinct for what we've got coming maybe 2 races from now. We've made some adjustments to this one to get what we wanted to try, and it's made a big improvement, but it's only half of the percent that we want to be able to do that. And
speaking of just the conditions at the moment, you'd be hoping that it'd just start bucketing down so you can perform what you've been doing earlier in the sessions, and particularly on yesterday?
You know, we're not that great in the wet. I still don't, the bike transfer, the weight, and the feel is still not what we needed. The bike kind of fighting me, and we found out some of the causes for that. And we're going to make some improvements for, like I say, either the next race or the race after. They're chassis improvements, just basically weight positioning and stuff. So the only thing that's helping me right now is conditions that are catching other guys out. If it's full wet, it's not great. If it's full dry, it's not great. So anything changeable or catching people on the wrong tires or something like that's a benefit.
All right, all the best.
Okay.
That's Kenny Roberts Jr., of course, the world champion back in 2000 on that 500 Suzuki. He absolutely sums it up perfectly. When the conditions are a bit mixed and people aren't quite sure what to do, he, of course, is such a very, very good rider. He can produce some very good results, but a lot of frame changes going on. A new frame here this weekend, but it appears that they've discovered more last weekend with the old frame. That means that the frame they've brought here is almost obsolete. That in many ways sums it up, doesn't it?
Must make your day saying something like that, and all the development that's gone into the new frame, then you figure out that it's not what you really wanted in the first place.
Yeah, and it sounds like they found that out, doesn't it, last weekend when the new frame was already en route to Le Mans.
Well, now it's down to the last minutes now. We're getting the sirens now to start clearing the grid. The helmets are going on for the riders. Just going to hang around a bit longer. I presume they're all on slicks. I'm looking for the Bridgestone guys and the Michelin guys to try and get a list of tyres. You've probably got it up there before I have at the moment, Nick. But
yeah, I think it's coming my lunch somewhere, actually, Mark. No, it hasn't arrived yet.
Well, hopefully your lunch hasn't arrived either.
There is Kenny Roberts Jr. We're just talking to him. Mixed conditions he would probably prefer. Well, he may get mixed conditions. I would imagine, Mark, just from looking up here, there's a little bit of watery sunshine even arrived.
Certainly has at the moment, and just one of the guys saying that it is wet still over the back of the track, so it's not it's even worse that you're going to have half a dry track and half a wet track, but I'm sure we'll be able to see that when they head off on the warm-up lap and we get the helicopter shot from above.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I think there's going to be a very, very important warm-up lap for these riders. Tony Elias, not the best of qualifying for the Spaniard, but he's had a good season so far, hasn't he? His first year with the Fortuna Honda team. James Ellison, the Cumbrian, a Lake District in England, very used to weather like this. It's actually very Lake District weather. A little bit of sunshine, then some rain, high wind, beautiful part of the world. But James Ellison struggling a little bit at the moment on that Tech 3 Yamaha with the Dunlop tyres, and really just looking for a change of direction. It's very, very hard because Dunlop's first real full season back in MotoGP, and of course they've got no pointers to go at, and everything is new for them.
It's interesting, Nick, this is the longest I've actually seen tyre warmers stay on the bikes. They're waiting till the very last moment, so there's much heat in them. The safety car's heading off on his warm-up lap to check the track out, and I'm sure he'll be radioing back to race director Paul Butler and also Mike Trimity, letting know what the latest situation is at the back of the circuit.
Yeah, it's the back end of the circuit. It's not here as they go up through the right hand and then come into the chicane. It's further around where the problems are, probably around Garage Vert, La Chapelle, the museum corner, all at the far end of the circuit. I mean, it's not a very long circuit. I can look across the top of the grandstands to there, but really you can't tell from where I'm sitting if it's wet or not. But it's certainly not wet at the start and finish. What the riders are worried about, that it's wet at the far side of the circuit when they went out on that sighting lap.
And well, it's the moment of truth now. Everybody's getting cleared, and obviously everybody's on the slicks, like I said, but it's just a matter of what combinations they be going for, because it's been such a gamble this weekend, and we had a good dry setting on Saturday or Friday for the first two free practices. Then we had rain that cleared during the free practice yesterday. Then we had those high winds for qualifying yesterday afternoon, so it's been a bit of everything.
Certainly has been a bit of everything. Safety car still on its way out. This is the front row of the grid for round 5 of the MotoGP World Championship. John Hopkins, a big slick rear Bridgestone tyres. Shinya Nakano on the Kawasaki, and the man in pole position, it's the 20-year-old Spaniard Danny Pedrosa, riding the Repsol Honda, chasing his second successive Grand Prix victory.
And just all the teams going back to actually have last-minute checks of all the spare bikes. They've got the tyre warmers on, and I don't have to look underneath to know that they've all got wet weather tyres sitting there ready and waiting to go out if and when anything changes in the conditions.
Yeah, of course, we're not used to this, are we?
So it's just interesting to see these guys working frantically. Just normally it's the nerves start building and they all hang on pit wall waiting for the start of the race. But at the moment there's wheels getting changed. There's stainless steel disc going in instead of the carbon fibre disc, and it looks like it's the last 10 minutes of a qualifying session more than the start of the race.
The front row, Danny Pedrosa in pole. Look at that second row, Depunier, Melandri, Caparossi. Third row, Rossi, Gibernau and Edwards. Fourth row, Hayden, the championship leader, Stoner and Vermeulen, 2 Australians in an American. Fifth row, Tamada, Carlos Checa and Kenny Roberts Jr. Row 6, Tony Elias, James Ellison and Alex Hoffman. And Mr. Cardoso all on his own on row 7. So this is going to be a very, very important sighting lap for these riders. It's dry here at the start and finish. We're told, though, it's still damp on the far part of the circuit. And I can assure you, these boys will be testing that out to the limit when they get round there, because it could play an absolutely crucial part in the outcome of round 5 of the championship. 4 separate winners, sorry, only 4 later. Could it be 5? Let's just check out when we get further around the circuit just how wet it may be. Up into the new Dunlop, modified, I think is a fairer word, Dunlop chicane. Valentino Rossi that leads the way over the warm-up lap. It's not like Formula 1, you don't have to stick in your positions when you go on that final sighting warm-up lap. And then under the Dunlop bridge, down the hill. This is bringing us down towards La Chapelle, the right-hander. I'd say there, Mark, it looks dry enough, wouldn't you? official attendance, 76,200. That is a very good crowd indeed. Up the hill towards the left. Still dry. Down towards Garage Vert. This is the right-hander that brings them onto the back straight. We ride with Shinya Nakano.
And a few drops of rain just in pit lane at the moment, Nick. Nothing to get too alarmed about. It'll still be a dry race, but could be an ominous sign for halfway through the race if these heavens open again.
And now into Chemin au Boeuf, the left and right chicane. Again, looks dry, yeah, looks like pretty dry through there. That little short straight, then into the start-finish complex. We ride with Valentino Rossi. What a great onboard shot. Showing him just tweaking that gear lever. Rossi prepares for action. Well, it looks pretty dry to me all the way round at the moment. Any more news of the rain at the start-finish mark?
No, just like at the start of the 125 and the 250, just the occasional drop of rain that just enough to put doubt in the rider's mind more than anything, because it's not really settling on the track.
Okay, the grid is lining up. Round 5 of the MotoGP World Championship. 28 laps, and Kenny Roberts Jr. is coming into the pits. Kenny Roberts Jr. is coming into the pits. Is he going to change machines? He is. So he's come off the slicks. Is he going to go on to the intermediates? Roberts into the pits.
There's something wrong with the bike, actually, Nick, with his. I'm just standing opposite. He's jumping on the spare bike, which has got a slick on the front and a rain tyre on the back.
Okay, right, Kenny Roberts racing to get Good start from the second row of the grid, also by Loris Capirossi. Up towards the Dunlop chicane they come, and it could be Loris Capirossi, it could be Marco Melandri. It's Marco Melandri that leads the way to the chicane, trying to go on the inside. There is John Hopkins. Hopkins leads the way. Is Melandri running wide? Loris Capirossi runs it wide. One of the Kawasaki's has gone down. That is Randy de Prunier, I think, that has gone down. Marco Melandri leads, John Hopkins second, Danny Pedrosa third, Loris Capirossi, Shinya Nakano, Valentino Rossi. Oh, what a start to the race.
Rossi was very lucky to stay on there too. He got shunted from behind, which concertinaed him into Randy de Prunier. So Randy de Punier's race over before it really started.
So Randy de Prunier out at the very first bend, the French hope out. Marco Melandri leads. John Hopkins second, Danny Pedrosa third, Loris Capirossi 4, Shinya Nakano 5, Valentino Rossi 6, Tony Elias 7. What a start from Tony Elias. Nicky Hayden also a good start, 8th, and Casey Stoner in 9th place. Along this little short straight before they come to the chicane, Carlos Checker at the back there. Colin Evans has made a bad start. Sete Gibernau a very bad start, although he may have got caught up in the melee at the chicane. John Hopkins leads the way. John Hopkins leads the Grand Prix on the Rizzler Suzuki. Round the right, then immediately left, then into the double right that brings them back into the start and finish straight. John Hopkins, who celebrates his 23rd birthday tomorrow, leads a Grand Prix for Suzuki. In second place, Marco Melandri. Danny Pedrosa, nice and handily placed in third place. Then Loris Capirossi, Shinya Nakano as the pack stream through for the first time. Nakano, Rossi, Elias, Casey Stoner 8, Nicky Hayden 9, Chris Vermeulen in 10th place. Up at the Dunlop chicane, Hopkins leads Melandri. Pedrosa, Capirossi, Rossi now all over the rear wheel of Loris Capirossi. They've both got past.
And Roberts coming back in on the spare bike too, Nick.
So Kenny Roberts, all sorts of problems. Here is the problem here. Loris Capirossi was very lucky, he ran it wide. I don't know, there was nowhere left for Randy de Prunier to go, but Randy de Prunier is out of the race at the very first bend. Oh, it's airy in there. Oh, Valentino Rossi, very, very, very lucky to stay on board. He does stay on board. Look at this, this is a great shot. Valentino Rossi gets clipped there by Danny Pedrosa. And we see Colin Edwards and Sete Gibernau running into the dirt, and that's why they're running at the rear end of the field at the moment. Sete Gibernau 16th, Colin Edwards 17th. Here comes Loris Capirossi, Valentino Rossi.
Well, they're changing the rear tyre on Kenny Roberts Jr.'s bike at the moment, Nick, putting a slick back on it. So the first bike had a mechanical problem, wasn't revving properly.
Obviously, then the second bike was prepared for wet weather, wasn't it? So they didn't have time to change the tyre, so he had to come in. John Hopkins at the front, the Anglo-American on that Rizzler Suzuki. Marco Melandri coming under pressure from Danny Pedrosa. Valentino Rossi now in front of Shinya Nakano and chasing after Loris Capirossi. Then a little gap, Tony Elias, Casey Stoner, Nicky Hayden. They cross the line, 26 laps to go. Stoner in 8th place, Hayden 9th, Vermeulen 10, Tamada 11, Checker 12, 13 Giovinazzi, 14 Cardoso, Colin Edwards in 15th place. But he is setting a cracking pace at the front at the moment. Fastest lap of the race so far for John Hopkins, a 1:36.558 for John Hopkins, chasing his first ever MotoGP podium finish. He could go even better than that. Danny Pedrosa now putting some pressure on Marco Melandri. Valentino Rossi has got up the inside of Loris Capirossi and is after Pedrosa. Loris Capirossi fights back, but Valentino Rossi will hang on to 4th place. He's got Pedrosa in his sights. Meanwhile, Hopkins has opened up an advantage of about 0.7 of 1 second at the front.
And I think Hopkins learned something from China last week by following Edwards, just to go and nail it from the start and try and break out a little bit of a lead and try and get these guys to chase him, as he's doing a tremendous job at the moment.
Well, he certainly is a man full of confidence. Here comes Rossi once again, and Rossi has got up the inside of Danny Pedrosa into 3rd place. Valentino Rossi is absolutely flying. Oh, he's going to go up the inside of Marco Melandri. He's into 2nd. Whoa, Valentino Rossi is back, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on to your seats. He's up into 2nd place. He's past Marco Melandri and Danny Pedrosa in 2 bends. He's got John Hopkins in his sights. Hopkins with an advantage of 0.8 of a second at the front. Rossi from the 3rd row, the grid is flying. That's not going to last long with Rossi. I think that bump up the rear really wound him up and he's chasing. Rossi has set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:35.890 for Valentino Rossi, the world champion. Hopkins leads, Rossi 2nd, then Melandri. We are confirmation of that fastest lap, a 1:35.890 for Rossi.
How many laps do you give him, Nick, before he gets into the lead over Hopkins? Because it's a tyre battle at the moment to see how long these bridge shows can last on the rear of Hopkins' bike.
Well, he will get behind Hopkins and push him hard. That's what he does, doesn't he? Tries to make him make a mistake. Danny Pedrosa's got past Marco Melandri. Runs it wide, and Marco Melandri retakes 3rd place. Danny Pedrosa doesn't want him to retake 3rd place. They're absolutely side by side as they come into the right-hander, but it's Melandri that holds the advantage, but runs it wide again, and Pedrosa back up into 3rd. Mistake by Melandri. Capirosi's also gone through. So a lot of work to do for Marco Melandri, the winner in Turkey 4 weeks ago.
Shinya Nakano being penalised with a jump start too, Nick.
Shinya Nakano is going to be penalised with a jump start. So that will push the man on the Kawasaki way, way back. We'll see him have to come in and take his 10-second penalty. So poor old Shinya Nakano.
A disastrous start so far for the Kawasaki team after such a promising qualifying session.
Randy Punier out on the first bend. Casey Stoner still leads Nicky Hayden. Behind them, Chris Vermeulen. Stoner in 7th place. Hayden in 9th. Chris Vermeulen, we'll get there in a minute. Stoner 7th, Hayden 8th, Vermeulen 9, Tamada in 10th. Tony Elias dropping down the field in 11th place. Rossi closing now on Hopkins at the front, the gap about 0.6 of a second. There is Casey Stoner. Nicky Hayden, the World Championship leader, in 8th place at the moment on the Repsol Honda. Chasing hard after Stoner. To say suffering from a very, very bad bout of the flu. And there's Marco Melandri making that mistake. And he not only lets Danny Pedrosa through, but he also lets Loris Capirossi through. And Valentino Rossi has come from absolutely nowhere to take the lead. Where did he come from? Absolutely nowhere. The doctor leads.
Now that he's got that new frame, he's certainly adapted to it really well, and it's like an old friend to him at the moment, as Hopkins just tries and tries to keep in touch with him, but Rossi is definitely on a mission after that first lap incident.
23.5 laps to go. Just listen to the crowd. We're in France, but they still love Valentino Rossi. Closing on Hopkins. Hopkins just leaves the smallest of gaps. You don't need to leave a gap as small as that for Valentino Rossi. He will get through, and he has got through. And you just get the feeling he wants to rub everybody's nose in it, don't you? And just show them what he can do. Danny Pedrosa, Loris Capirossi, Marco Melandri, Shinya Nakano, in. Valentino Rossi, fastest lap of the race, as you would imagine. A 1:35.087 for Valentino Rossi. Now, can anybody stay with the doctor? John Hopkins is certainly trying very, very hard indeed. Marco Melandri trying to fight back after that mistake that dropped him from 3rd to 5th, currently in 5th place. Confirmation of that lap, 1:35.087 for Valentino Rossi. John Hopkins is hanging in there. Danny Pedrosa working very hard indeed. Good fight between the two Italians, Loris Capirossi and Marco Melandri. Both former 250cc World Championships. Now the tyre choice. Pedrosa, slick, soft front. Capirossi, slick. Well, they've gone off the screen now, but obviously they're all on slicks, and the weather conditions have certainly brightened up. I think that's the most important part of it. At the start of the race, there was a worry. John Hopkins, though, is not letting Rossi get away. There we are, Marco Melandri. Front soft, rear medium. There is Marco Melandri involved in this horrendous, terrific battle with Loris Capirossi. But John Hopkins is hanging on to the rear end of the Yamaha of Valentino Rossi. And John Hopkins still chasing that first podium finish in MotoGP. He looked very, very impressive in China last week when he finished in 4th place. Challenged the lead for a long time with Colin Edwards. Danny Pedrosa also trying definitely not to let those two at the front get away. Rossi crosses the line now. The advantage about 0.4 of 1 second.
And Nick, the Kawasaki team frantically waving at Shinya Nakano to come in the pits very shortly, because if he doesn't do it within a certain number of laps, I think it's 3 laps, he'll be black flagged as well, so they're trying to get him in, trying to have a quick word with Harold Eckel, but he's just not interested today. It's been a disaster start for the Kawasaki team.
Yeah, Randy Depunier out on the first bend, and now a jump start for Shinya Nakano. Rossi leads, Hopkins second, Pedrosa closing on the pair of them at the front. Capirossi and Melandri continue to scrap it out for 4th place. Marco Melandri up the inside there of Loris Capirossi. Say both former 250cc world champions, both Italians. One on a Honda with those Michelin tyres, and one on a Ducati with those Bridgestone tyres. 0.7 of a second between Rossi and Pedrosa. And Pedrosa now closing on the rear wheel of John Hopkins.
You were wondering when that was going to start happening. Now that he's settled in, ran it wide in a couple of corners, did Danny Pedrosa, but he's settled in, really got the race pace on now, and I'm sure that Hopkins is going to be feeling the heat very shortly.
Now, Danny Pedrosa winning in China was pretty unbelievable. If Danny Pedrosa could beat Valentino Rossi in this race, I think Spain would probably sink, wouldn't it? It would be a remarkable achievement. But he's got a certain 22-year-old American in the way at the moment. He will not move over lightly. John Hopkins still in 2nd place as they cross the start and finish line. Pedrosa very close indeed, going up the inside of the Suzuki round the right-hander. Hopkins, though, still hanging in there, and here comes poor old Shinya Nakano in to take the rap for that jump start.
He cannot believe it. He's shaking his head as he passes.
Shakes his head, yeah. Camera doesn't usually lie, though, does it? Pedrosa all over the rear wheel there of John Hopkins. John Hopkins holds firm, because John Hopkins has still got Valentino Rossi in sight. We ride with Danny Pedrosa under the bridge, up towards the left hand of the museum corner. Round museum, downhill very slightly in speed before there's a difficult first gear right that brings him onto the back straight. Here comes Pedrosa on the brakes, up the inside, still not able to get through. John Hopkins has now run it wide, and Pedrosa has come through. Now, this is the race we've been waiting for all season. Valentino Rossi in one corner, Danny Pedrosa in the other corner. We have 20 and a half laps left. Sit back and enjoy the heavyweight contest of the season.
And it won't be too long before Pedrosa shows Rossi a front wheel. I think he wants to show that the apprentice is going to give the master a bit of a serve.
Well, this is tremendous. Danny Pedrosa and Valentino Rossi, both 125 and 250cc world champions, both absolutely at the top of their processions. Oh, there we go, 0.1, Pedrosa. I don't think he really needs toe-telling, does he? Valentino Rossi. This is the race we've been waiting for. And Rossi absolutely flying at the front. That new frame, Very, very impressive on Friday in the difficult conditions. Still only qualified 7th for the race on the 3rd row of the grid. But Rossi now trying to exert some pressure on Danny Pedrosa. And you've got to say full marks to John Hopkins in 3rd place. He's still hanging in there. Further down, Marco Melandri 4, Loris Capirossi 5, 6 is Nicky Hayden, 7 is Casey Stoner, 8 Tamada, 9 Givenow, 10 Edwards, both of them being balked in the crash of Randy DePune in the very first bend. Tony Elias 11, Chris Vermeulen 12, Carlos Checa 13, James Ellison 14, Alex Hoffman 15, 16th is Nakano's at that 10-second penalty, drive in and out, and Cardoso in 17th place. And Kenny Roberts Jr. on his father's machine, all sorts of problems on the warm-up lap, came in, changed pipes, and back in the pits and out of the race.
Be interesting with Rossi, who will really put the head down and see if he can break Pedrosa's back, because Pedrosa is just as determined to get past him. But saying that, Hopkins hasn't dropped off the pace whatsoever either. And looking behind them, Melandri is closing up on them as well.
Certainly is. Marco Melandri absolutely flying in 4th place at the moment. Done a 1:35.981 Marco Melandri. So that is the fastest lap of the race for Marco Melandri. So that's interesting indeed. Over the start and finish line, up through the Dunlop curve they come once again. John Hopkins in 3rd place, chasing after Danny Pedrosa and Valentino Rossi at the front. There is Marco Melandri in 4th place. Just got a glimpse also of Loris Capirossi in 5th, who had some fun and games at the chicane on that first lap. Valentino Rossi, very, very lucky indeed not to get knocked down. And Randy DePune went down at the very first bend of the race, rather reminiscent of the events at Jerez, the opening round of the championship when Rossi got knocked off. That's the gap between him and Pedrosa, half a second. The track is dry, and we're seeing the heavyweight contest, certainly of the season, perhaps for a long, long time. Oh, John Hopkins is gone. He's lost the front end of the Suzuki. John Hopkins slides out. They cannot believe it, back in the Rizzler Suzuki camp. John Hopkins, 23 tomorrow, slides out of the French Grand Prix and a possible podium finish. The front end just tucks under, and Hopkins' race, I won't say it's over, but any chance of being anywhere near the podium disappears in that cloud of gravel.
He was just a bit wide going in there, Nick, and there's a few bumps, so he's hit that and just unloaded the front, locked it up enough. You saw the big black line from the front tyre, and his race is not over yet, but certainly any chance of a podium or a decent result is out the window.
Now this is the battle for the 3rd podium finish. Marco Melandri. Here is John Hopkins back in the race at the very back of the field, because I think it was James Ellison and Cardoso that went past him, but in fact he seems to be limping back to the pit rather than riding back with any sort of purpose. Rossi flying at the front, a 1:35.144 for the doctor. Danny Pedrosa working so hard just to stay with him. Rossi, as you rightly say, I think is trying to break Pedrosa from the front, but Pedrosa is still hanging in there.
I thought Hopkins might have come into the pits, but he's staying out there to see what he can salvage out of this race.
Just got the tyre choice here. Pedrosa is using a soft front and a soft rear. Valentino Rossi is using a soft front and a soft rear. Yep, so they're both on soft front and rears.
Medium rear there, Nick.
Sorry, medium rear. There's been a crossing out, which suggests to me that things changed very much at the last minute.
Well, they certainly were, as they were battling for position, or what the tyres are used. And Rossi also using a big profile tyre as well against the smaller profile tyre that was more popular with the Yamaha.
Danny Pedrosa, first Grand Prix win just 7 days ago in China. But this is a far bigger test, because the man who leads the way is Valentino Rossi, the winner in France here last year. Of course, the world champion has had a very tough start to the season, but he did win the 2nd round of the championship in Qatar. Pedrosa is not letting him get away. The gap's still about half a second. Marco Melandri still in 3rd place. Loris Capirossi 4, Nicky Hayden 5, Casey Stoner in 6th place. Makoto Tamada really regenerated in 7th place. 8th is Edwards, 9th is Givenow, 10th is Elias. Chris Vermeulen on the Suzuki in 11th place. Carlos Checa in 12th.
And Rossi will just correct that, Nick, for the viewers, that he's the only one on the small profile with the medium, and he's also gone for the only rider to go for a hard rear as well.
Right, let's get that right. Just confirm that once again, please, Mark.
He's gone for the smaller profile front tyre in a medium compound, and the rear wheel is a hard compound. Everybody else on Michelin's has gone for the big profile front tyre, with most of them making a decision between the soft and the mediums. I'll just get Pedrosa's one. He has gone for a soft rear, so it'll be interesting to see if he sticks with it as John Hopkins comes into the pits right beside him.
Yeah, I just saw John Hopkins pull into pit lane. Looking at the damage of the Suzuki.
Not a lot of damage though, Nick, but just enough to unsettle the front end. I'd say that the fairing is broken.
There we go. Doesn't need reminding. John Hopkins crushing out of third place.
Just making an adjustment to the handlebar. Obviously, when he's gone down on that side, just push the handlebar a bit closer to the tank. So giving him a bit more room between his hands as they adjust it at the moment.
16 laps to go. Valentino Rossi crosses the line now. He's just eked out about 1/10 of a second over Danny Pedrosa. We ride with Pedrosa 6th gear, 270 kilometers an hour before down through the gearbox. Down into the first part of the chicane in 2nd gear. Right. Under the bridge, down the hill. 3rd gear. Then down to 2nd gear. This is La Chapelle, the right-hander.
And the
slight rise up towards the museum.
The body language of Hopper as he went out, he's got his left arm on the tank, he's basically holding his chin up, but hats off to him. Many other guys would have just parked the bike, but they've made the adjustments, fixed up the handlebar, and he's gone out there again.
Full marks to John Hopkins, obviously bitterly disappointed. He's back out there and may get involved in this battle, but a few laps down, because we ride with Danny Pedrosa as he chases after Valentino Rossi on the back straight up towards the chicane. 3rd gear momentarily up into 4th. No, he holds it in 3rd, Danny Pedrosa. And back down into 2nd. There is John Hopkins back in the race. Crashed out of 3rd place. Handlebar adjustment for the American. Now back in the race. Rossi piling on the pressure at the front. He really is trying to break Pedrosa down. Don't forget, this is only Danny Pedrosa's 5th MotoGP race. Marco Melandri, his own personal battle with Loris Capirossi. So the battle for the 3rd place on the podium. Cardoso, like he is out of the race. He's pulled into the pits, riding the Pramac Dantine Ducati. And that was Luis Dantine actually having a word with it.
Now they're actually changing the tyre on the rear of his bike.
So Dunlop tyres for the Pramac Dantine team, and the rear tyre being changed. Rossi still leads, Pedrosa just hanging on there by his fingernails, isn't he? His fingernails are just enough at the moment. The number 46 is back at the front. He's had a pretty tough time, Valentino Rossi. His team have had a pretty tough time, but they're at their best when the chips are down. Danny Pedrosa, just his 5th appearance in MotoGP. 125 winner here, double 250cc winner. This would be his 4th successive Le Mans victory. But he's got a certain man in front of him that's going to make life very, very difficult indeed.
It's going to be interesting with the tyre selection towards the end, Nick, because both Pedrosa and Melandri have gone for soft fronts, whereas on the bigger profile, whereas Rossi went for the smaller profile in the medium. He did select originally the bigger profile in a soft compound, so that could be the master stroke that wins it for him.
Back into the start and finish straight, 14 laps to go here of the Bugatti circuit at Le Mans. Valentino Rossi chasing his 2nd Grand Prix victory of the season. Danny Pedrosa likewise. The gap now is increasing. So just over 0.8 of 1 second. Marco Melandri 3.2 seconds behind Pedrosa as he fights off Loris Capirossi. Capirossi in turn 4.8 seconds in front of Nicky Hayden. In turn is 1.5 seconds in front of Casey Stoner, who in turn is 2.5 seconds in front of Colin Edwards and Makoto Tamada. But Edwards scything his way back through the field after being forced wide into the gravel. And Rani de Cunier went down in the very first chicane. And this is a good ride by Colin Edwards. Just looking at his lap times, yeah, 1:36.036. So not quite down in the 135s, but Edwards now back up into 7th place. There we go, confirmation of what Mark told us tyre choice-wise. Medium front and a hard rear for Rossi. Pedrosa, slightly different choice. It really was a lottery on the line, and in fact the Michelin sheet arrived here with some crossings out on it, because obviously things changed at the very, very last minute for Valentino Rossi.
And Hopkins just went past, looking down at the bike. Maybe he was just trying to adjust the front brake adjustment on the left-hand handlebar, but he's going very slow, and I don't know if he'll be out there for much longer.
He's currently running in 16th place, John Hopkins. He was running third till he crashed out of the race. He lost the front end of his Suzuki. Up over the start and finish line, 13 to go. Now 1.1 second, 1.1 between Rossi and Pedrosa. Has he broken the man in second place? Has the doctor fought back? And is Pedrosa not going to win his second successive Grand Prix? Marco Melandri still third, Loris Capirossi 4. 5 is Hayden, 6 is Stoner, 7 Edwards, 8 Tamada, 9 Gibernau, 10 Elias. Chris Vermeulen still going well in 11th place, Carlos Checa 12.
I've got Paul Denny with me, Nick, the team manager of the Rizla Suzuki. Obviously a disappointment with Hopkins crashing out there on the front end, hitting those bumps, but you've got to take your hat off to him for getting back when most riders would have retired.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, he'll be wondering what he's doing out there, but it only needs for it to rain or a couple of guys to fall off and he'll score some points. So, yeah, obviously really disappointing. I think he's riding the bike to its limit, and sometimes to hang those guys, you have to go a bit beyond it. And just got a little bit unlucky, running a little bit hot, and down she went. So, but I hope it doesn't dent his confidence, because he's been doing a good job.
All right, mate, thanks.
Paul Denning, team manager of Suzuki. He'll be watching Chris Vermeulen in 11th place. Valentino Rossi's pit look on. And Rossi now just eking out precious meters over Danny Pedrosa every lap. Lap 16 of 28, still a long, long way to go. But this is Rossi at his best, and Danny Pedrosa knows it. Danny Pedrosa, this is the gauge that Valentino Rossi has set down. This is the challenge he's given the 250cc world champion. Marco Melandri still in third place, Loris Capirossi 4. And this is the battle between not two young pretenders, but certainly two men that have done very well this season. That's Casey Stoner. Casey Stoner in 6th place, chasing after the championship leader, Nicky Hayden, in 5th, and closing on him as they come into the chicane. It's almost like Lucky Heights at Phillip Island, that part of the track, isn't it? You suddenly think, golly, the season's nearly over. We ride with Casey Stoner, that right knee kissing the tarmac at every opportunity. He's certainly got Nicky Hayden in his sights.
And Meccano fighting his way back too after his stop-go penalty. He's only going to be giving Elias all sorts of hurry up in the next couple of metres as well.
Yeah, Shinny Nakano currently in 16th place, was running well up after starting from the front row of the grid, but jumped the start according to the cameras. You jump the start, you have to come in and take your 10-second penalty. We ride with Nicky Hayden. Right behind him is Casey Stoner. Hayden suffering from a really bad bout of the flu all weekend.
And the doctor, Valentino, the only one to be consistently in the 35s, and that's just a mirror image of what he was doing in practice and qualifying. Him and Edwards about the only ones that be able to stick with that.
You ride him off at your peril, don't you, Mark? And this is a truly great Valentino Rossi performance, and Stoner really closing up now on Nicky Hayden. Stoner finished 5th last week, he's chasing 5th right at the moment. They're telling him 1.9 between him and Danny Pedrosa. Looking at the screen, it's now over 2 seconds, it's 2.1.
Well, they're keeping the pressure on him from his pit board at the moment, Nick. They just said one second to Pedrosa, even though it's starting to stretch out to 2. And I'll be just see how long that Rossi can maintain this pace before he just relaxes and brings it home and saving the tyres.
This is Danny Pedrosa now, rather lonely 2nd place, but a tremendous 2nd place for the 250cc world champion. Here is Stoner and Hayden. This is the race of the race so far. Stoner in 6th place, Nicky Hayden in 5th. Stoner now right behind him. We ride with Nicky Hayden. Big, big black cloud to go over the top of those two.
now Gary Coleman's about to put the sign up, 2-point whatever, team man for Valentino Rossi to let him know that he's well in control of this race. But then saying that after what we've seen in the last couple of races, I'm not going to say anything too much, but he's certainly in a powerful position to be watched Stoner giving all sorts of pressure to Hayden.
Yeah, giving Hayden a really hard time now. 2.7 seconds between Pedrosa and Rossi, so he's opening up the gap all the time. And I just get the feeling that Danny Pedrosa is settling into things and thinking, okay, I won last week, second place this week will be a very, very good result indeed. And at the front, Valentino Rossi is saying, yeah, young guns, they are fantastic, but I am still the king. And that's really very interesting indeed.
Well, Gary Coleman just trying to change Rossi's board to read 3 seconds, so he's letting him know that he's well in control. But speaking of Hayden before, it'll be interesting to see how much he can sustain the sickness and the illness that he had during the week.
Yeah, 3.1 seconds now between Rossi and Pedrosa. Melandri and Caparossi still scrubbing out for third place, and Hayden still just hangs on to fifth with Stoner closing all the time, and there's nothing worse than a good bout of the flu to really weaken you up, and Nicky Hayden riding a brave ride in fifth place at the moment and trying to hang on to that World Championship lead, and if he does finish fifth, he will do surely still hang on to that World Championship lead. But Danny Pedrosa will get even closer to him. Here comes Stoner again. Not quite close enough at the moment, but he's closing all the time. And in the end, he's going to be close enough to have a little sniff, isn't he? Not quite there yet. Oh, he gets up the inside very well indeed. Hayden gets the drive out of the corner, down the hill to the first gear right they come. Stoner's sizing him up. This is the battle for fifth place. Casey Stoner, the 20-year-old Australian, sizing up Nicky Hayden, the championship leader, onto the back straight. He's sizing nobody up but himself, Valentino Rossi. The gap now, 3.4 seconds, 3.6, sorry. He's done his job, he's broken Danny Pedrosa. He's just showing everybody that he can still do it when it matters.
Well, Rossi got the fastest speed of the race at this stage of 285 kilometres, down on Stoner's top speed of 299 qualifying. But and it's only at 6th gear at one spot here on the straight right in front of you, Nick. They're hitting about 16,000 revs as well.
Just about here, there we go. A little bit of a wobble also. Very, very fast. Spectacular place to watch Grand Prix motorcycle racing, because you have to get down through the gearbox in the second gear to get it through the Dunlop chicane. It's left and right. Then you plunge under the bridge on this left-hander, very deceptive, pretty fast third gear left-hander. We ride with Valentino Rossi's foot. Changes down, upwards, changes up, downwards. I hope that's not too confusing.
And for the majority of the lap, Nick, they're in second gear around here, just using all the revs of the second gear to pull them up. And like I said, only in 6th gear once, even on the back straight, only get up to 5th gear, approximately 280 kilometres an hour.
There's Danny Pedrosa in second place. Marco Melandri still holding off Loris Caparossi, but Caparossi's hanging in there. And Casey Stoner has got in front of Nicky Hayden. Casey Stoner up into 5th place. Nicky Hayden relegated to 6th. Now he's got past Nicky Hayden. Who knows? Casey Stoner may just be able to sit out for the man in front. Hayden just runs it a little bit wide. And Stoner gratefully accepts the gap and goes through. Lucio Cecchinello says another 5th place wouldn't be too bad, but has he got any chance of catching Melandri and Caparossi in front of him? He's got no chance of catching this man at the front.
Well, now there's a few riders starting to dip into the 135s, Stoner being one of them too, but they still haven't got as fast as Rossi at this stage.
Pedrosa chasing very hard indeed, but it's not hard enough. It's not the length of the start and finish straight now, but it's getting near to that. 4.43 seconds. 8 laps to go. Melandri, Caparossi in 4th place. The sun out, glinting on that red fairing of the Ducati. As Caparossi picks it in left and right. The gap between Pedrosa and Melandri, 2.7 seconds. So that's a fair old size gap as well. The gap between Caparossi and Stoner, yeah, about 5.5. So I think it'd have to be a pretty remarkable 8 laps for Casey Stoner to catch those in front of him.
Be interesting to see if Marco Melandri can hold off the attention of Loris Caparossi. He never weakens during a race before Caparossi, and they're giving him some signs to let him know that Caparossi is not giving up the chase.
But at the top end of the circuit, it looks like one of Valentino Rossi is out. Valentino Rossi is out of the race. The yellow Yamaha has expired. Valentino Rossi, 7.5 laps ago, is out of the French Grand Prix. We cannot believe it. He was leading by 4.3 seconds, but Rossi is out of the race here in Le Mans. Let's look again. Top end. From the picture, you thought he'd gone through. It was Pedrosa in second place, but the yellow Yamaha is Valentino Rossi. The doctor's curse continues. And the engine has just died on him. Wow, what a dramatic moment for Valentino Rossi as he chases his 81st Grand Prix victory. What a picture.
Well, another picture, Nick, is the look on Jerry Burgess and David Brivio's face when they saw that coming to a stop. Burgess going back to the pit garage now, and I'm sure that Rossi will be making his way back as quickly as possible to tell them what happened. But at this stage, they're as much in the dark as what we are.
Danny Pedrosa, back-to-back wins in MotoGP, and they just cannot believe it, back in the Camel Yamaha pit. You don't see Rossi often distraught, do you? Very, very rarely, but he is distraught. He cannot believe it. He'd done everything absolutely right, but something expired on that Yamaha, and Rossi is out of the race, and Danny Pedrosa now could win it, but there's a certain Marco Melandri who's 1.7 seconds behind. You might just start be having that sniff of victory in his nostrils. I don't think this race is over yet.
Well, that's what I was trying to allude to before, Nick. Even though Rossi was that far in front, I wasn't going to say that he had it in the bag after what we've seen in the earlier races. Now Melandri, when he would gone past Rossi and seen him expired, he knows he can have a wind under his belt. And we saw what he could do in Turkey, coming from so far at the back of the grid, that just chase the leaders down. And now he's really got to put some pressure on Pedrosa and try and get the Pedrosa to make a mistake.
This is going to be one hell of a last 6 laps in the French Grand Prix at Le Mans. Pedrosa leads the way, just over 1 second the gap between him and Marco Melandri. Loris Capirossi in third place, Casey Stoner fourth, Nicky Hayden 5, Colin Edwards 6, Makoto Tamada 7.
Melandri's really ripped it up. He's gone into the 35.3 where Pedrosa's last lap with the 36 flat.
Just to remind you, Valentino Rossi was leading by over 3 seconds, and his Yamaha stopped out on the circuit. Now Melandri, he's got Pedrosa in his sights. Poor old Danny Pedrosa had to deal with Valentino Rossi. Then when Rossi went out, he must have thought, hey, up, we're in here. And then suddenly it's another Italian and another Grand Prix winner this season. Marco Melandri, who's closing on him all the time. He really is closing the gap now, Marco Melandri. Both these riders, former 250cc world champions. Pedrosa, the current champion. Pedrosa, soft front, soft rear. Melandri, soft front and medium rear. That could prove very, very important indeed. Both of them on Michelin tyres.
And you saw how hard Pedrosa's braking there at the back of that straight, where his foot come off the pegs as it tries to throw him over the bars. But Melandri has really got the sniff of it now. He's not going to wait about putting pressure on Pedrosa. He's just going to overtake him and try to disappear into the distance.
Marco Melandri closing about Danny Pedrosa, thinks about going up the inside. He needn't really rush things. There's still 5 laps to go when they come over the start and finish line. Danny Pedrosa under real pressure at the front. Up over the start and finish line. Throttle absolutely flat out at the moment. Full throttle. 6th gear. Now hard on the brakes for the chicane. Melandri's gone up the inside of Pedrosa. Who's going to come in there first? Oh, Marco Melandri takes the lead. There's nothing Danny Pedrosa can do. Melandri leads the French Grand Prix here at Le Mans. 5 laps to go. Danny Pedrosa relegated to 2nd place. Now can Pedrosa fight back, or can Melandri pull away?
Melandri's going to try and pull away. I think Nicky's closing that fast. In the last lap with a 35.3 compared to Pedrosa's 36.2, so it's 9/10 of a second different. You don't need to know the timesheets to see how much Melandri's closed up and overtaken him as again where Rossi expired up in Museum corner.
Fabulous smooth overtaking manoeuvre there by Marco Melandri. Into the left-hand part of the chicane, holds it tight round the right. And Danny Pedrosa now has got to work very, very hard indeed if he's going to win his 2nd successive Grand Prix. And Melandri is pulling away at the front. Melandri chasing his 2nd Grand Prix victory of the season. He won in Turkey after that epic battle with Casey Stoner. but this has been such a dramatic race. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Valentino Rossi looked a certain winner, didn't he? And it didn't happen.
And look at that on the screen, Nick. Pedrosa and Caparossi, so Caparossi's got the sniff as well.
Well, it was settling down for a bit of a run in the park, wasn't it, with about 9 laps to go. Suddenly it's absolutely changed. Loris Caparossi in 3rd place on the big booming Ducati with the Bridgestone tyres. Now after Danny Pedrosa in 2nd. Stoner should be crossing the line any moment now. Caparossi's crossed the line in 3rd place.
Well, between Melandri and Pedrosa, as it stays this way, we'll see our first dual winner of the 2006 season.
Casey Stoner still 4th. 5th is Hayden, 6th is Edwards, 7th Tamada, 8th is Giovinazzo. Just 8 riders over the start and finish line at the moment. And here is Valentino Rossi making his way back to his, not even to the pit, but into the truck, the Yamaha truck. I don't think he can believe what has happened. Valentino Rossi, the door slammed firmly shut. Comfortably leading the French Grand Prix here at Le Mans. And then the problem set in. Loris Caparossi chasing hard after Danny Pedrosa. 3.5 laps to go. This would be a battle for 2nd place. Marco Melandri leads the way.
Well, Jeremy Burgess hasn't even gone into that truck, Nick, so I'm definitely not going to have a go.
Don't knock on the door politely.
I think I'm bad enough looking as it is. I don't want to have my face any more rearranged.
So I don't think you probably get a polite answer at the moment. This is Pedrosa. 3.5 to go, a little less than 3.5. He's going to have to work hard to hang on to 2nd place. I don't think he's going to catch Melandri at the front. Marco Melandri has timed this race to absolute perfection.
Just amazing what a difference when you can see a yellow bike sitting on the side of the track. Melandri was probably quite happy to just to put the pressure on Pedrosa for 2nd later on. But as soon as he saw Rossi disappearing, he knew he had to make his move.
Fausto Grassini, well, he's just a slightly smaller, so he just got a glimpse of him earlier on. Former 125cc world champion, team manager of the Fortuna Honda team. Watches his man lead the way with 3 laps to go. Plunge down the hill and round the right. Marco Melandri chasing his 2nd Grand Prix victory of the season.
And that was interesting, a reflection on the side of Fausto Grassini's bike. Had a Yamaha emblem on it.
23 years old, and of course, former 250cc world champion. Had a very tough debut in MotoGP riding the Yamaha, but when he switched to Fortuna Honda, and Marco Melandri really came into the fore. Loris Caparossi, well, he's another former 250cc world champion, so all these men at the front, the first 3, come up through the ranks, and they're doing a fantastic job at the very top of their profession. Caparossi closing the gap on Pedrosa, just about 1 second.
And Caparossi doing a 35.9 that last lap. Pedrosa struggling on the 36.5, so mid-36 for all the last 3 or 4 laps for Pedrosa, as now Caparossi closes him down.
0.6 of a second. That was at the last split. I would think it would be even closer than that. Up they come towards the start and finish area. This is the right. And Loris Caparossi looking to take over 2nd place from Danny Pedrosa. 2 laps to go when they cross the line. Loris Caparossi crosses the line now. The gap between them about 0.8 of 1 second. There's Pedrosa, there's Caparossi. 0.4 of 1 second now. Break for the chicane. Caparossi, you would imagine, in 2 laps just to get about close enough. It won't be easy. Melandri away at the front. Pedrosa 2nd, Caparossi 3rd. All 3 of these riders winners of Grand Prix this season. Caparossi won that opening round in Jerez in Spain. Danny Pedrosa, of course, won a week ago in China. And Marco Melandri won the race in Turkey 4 weeks ago. The other Grand Prix winner, Valentino Rossi, looked a very likely winner of this particular encounter until he broke down out on the circuit while having a comfortable lead over Danny Pedrosa of over 3 seconds.
I think Pedrosa's going to get mugged for the 3rd time in this race very shortly by Caparossi, actually, Nick.
Caparossi's got to make his move soon. There's only 1.5 laps to go. They're under the bridge up towards the Chemin de Boeuf chicane. He's getting closer all the time. Little short straight, then into the right. So bring them back to the start-finish complex.
0.3 of a second now, Nick. You don't have to have the time. The stopwatch is on to figure that out now. He's right on him.
Yes, and we're riding with Loris Capirossi. Great on-board stuff. Once again, he's closing on Pedrosa. This is the right-hander that will bring them back into the start-finish straight. Just one lap to go. Pedrosa just hanging in there in second place. Right. Open those throttles. They both open up the throttles. Pedrosa still holds on to second place as they come up towards the Dunlop chicane. Casey Stoner still hanging on to fourth place. Nicky Hayden, though, right behind him. They're up to the chicane. And Capirossi still not quite close enough. Pedrosa trying to up the pace. A 1:36.539 and a 1:35.871, so still a big difference in lap time. And Capirossi is close enough this time. Now, can he get past him? Half a lap to go. This is the battle for second place. Danny Pedrosa holding off the Ducati of Loris Capirossi. Marco Melandri still leads the way. Danny Pedrosa, I tell you, is not going to give up this second place easily.
But he just saw the big black line as he just screwed the throttle on there coming out of the Chaparral corner of the museum. But here comes Capirossi.
Capirossi up the inside of Danny Pedrosa. Capirossi takes over second place, and there's nothing Danny Pedrosa can do as he runs it wide onto the rumble strip. He hangs on to the Honda. That is third place for Danny Pedrosa. His second place is gone. Loris Capirossi is going to take over second place. Danny Pedrosa will pick up 16 points, though, in third place.
That's what you call a brake check, Nick. Just slammed it in the side of him, pushed him really wide. He really wanted that bit of dirt.
Pedrosa fights back. Full marks for Danny Pedrosa. He's not going to give up this second place. Marco Melandri is going to win the race. Pedrosa comes back. This might surprise Loris Capirossi. They round the left. It's just this double right to come into. I don't think he's quite close enough. No, he's not. Loris Capirossi sure is going to finish in second place. Pedrosa, though, gets up the inside. Marco Melandri looks behind him. Marco Melandri finishes second. Loris Capirossi finishes third. And Danny Pedrosa in fourth place. Good scrap for fourth. And it's Casey Stoner in fourth place. Nicky Hayden in fifth spot.
And the team going absolutely ballistic down here, the Fortuna Honda team.
And here we are. That's the overtaking manoeuvre up the inside. Doesn't leave him any room. He runs it wide himself. They both get right onto the rumble strip. But it was just enough for Loris Capirossi to take over second place.
We know the Italians and Spaniards are pretty emotional, and there's plenty of tears here at the Fortuna camp at the moment.
Marco Melandri wins his second Grand Prix of the season. Loris Capirossi second. Danny Pedrosa third. Casey Stoner a very good fourth place. Nicky Hayden 5, Colin Edwards a brave 6 after running wide in the Chamozzle at the chicane on the first lap. Makoto Tamada 7, Sete Gibanau 8, again another man caught up in that first chicane Chamozzle. 9 is Tony Elias, 10 Chris Vermeulen, 11 Carlos Checa, 12 Shinya Nakano, great drive over Nakano because he had to take a stop-start penalty for jumping the start. Alex Hoffman in 13th place, 14th James Ellison, and another brave ride because it's John Hopkins who's ridden into 15th place after crashing out of third.
And that last corner, Nick, we saw the aerial shot of how close Melandri and Pedrosa went to catching each other out as Pedrosa tried right up the inside, but Melandri shut the door. And just as we crossed the line, wouldn't you know it, it started to rain properly this time.
So I see people in the grandstand opposite putting on their mats, putting up their umbrellas. It doesn't matter now. The race is over. Marco Melandri becomes the first man this season to win 2 Grand Prix. A very good second place though for Loris Capirossi. Danny Pedrosa would have wanted to win the race, but a third place is still one hell of an achievement. It's only his 5th MotoGP race. Equally impressive. Casey Stoner in 4th place. Nicky Hayden 5th. Colin Edwards 6th.
Well, you couldn't have predicted any of those races today, Nick, the way they ended up, particularly, well, when was the last time you saw a mechanical failure afflict Valentino Rossi?
I'm trying to think, if I can think of one. A very, very long time ago. We've seen tyre problems, but an actual mechanical problem putting him out of the race. Whoa. And there we go. It's really the story of the race. Valentino Rossi out of the race, up at the museum corner, when he had it absolutely in his pocket. Look at him. He is, I can't say he's in tears because we can't see through the visor, but his helmet hadn't come off when he came back to the pits and back into the truck. Absolutely distraught. And really, that could be the day that Valentino Rossi, chances of retaining its world title, disappeared. Casey Stoner, great ride by the 20-year-old Australian into 4th place.
And they're just pushing Valentino's bike back now as Colin Edwards comes past and gives it a look to see if there's any crash damage to it. I'll try and get a word with Colin Edwards and just get his take on what happened there.
Danny Pedrosa, Park Ferme, speaks to Alberto Puig. Alberto Puig, there's quite an animated conversation between him and Danny going on. And a little bit of comparing notes, I think, Loris Capirossi and Danny Pedrosa about that very last lap. But we await the winner. It's Marco Melandri, back on the top of the podium. It was only, what, 4 weeks ago he was on the podium in Turkey at the very top. But the 23-year-old from Ravenna in Italy wins his 4th MotoGP race. He won 10 250cc races, 7 125. So this is his 21st Grand Prix victory. And Fausto Grassini knows how to celebrate, the team manager.
Nick, I've got Colin Edwards with me. Colin, a remarkable recovery. What was your take on what happened on that first lap?
I don't know. I mean, the guys just kind of got bunched up there, and I really had nowhere to go. I mean, I could try and turn it in, and then everybody would have been taken out. So I thought the only thing I could do is go straight across the gravel.
And you really put your head down and made a marvellous recovery to get back to 6th spot.
Yeah. You know, Sete was up there, man. I mean, places I was fast, he was just slow enough to stop my progress and then get on the straight, and he'd blast away from me. So it was kind of a pain in the ass, really, trying to get around him. But finally, you know, we did, and put our head down and got some laps in.
And you got some points, unlike your teammate, and you're still smiling.
I don't know about smiling, but I'm probably happier than he is.
All right, mate. Thanks very much.
Colin Edwards, great ride by him, really. Yeah, he's not happy. He's finished in 6th place, and he had to really fight his way back after that first chicane Chamozzle when Randy de Punier went down, the Frenchman, on the Kawasaki. And, well, his very first appearance in MotoGP in France, and going down at the chicane. And then a disastrous afternoon for Kawasaki because Shinya Nakano, a stop-and-go penalty after jumping the start, though he did fight back bravely, Nakano, eventually finishing in 12th place.
And I've got, Nick, I've got Casey Stoner with me. Casey, a good tenacious effort to get to where you were on the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the beginning of the race didn't go to plan, but at the end of the race, you know, we set him to have the best setup of the whole lot. So I'm reasonably happy with the result, but I thought, you know, if we could have been up with those guys, then we might have been able to do something more.
Did you get balked at the first lap up at the chicane when everything hell broke loose?
Well, I got a reasonably good start and got past a couple of people, and then, yeah, unfortunately, you know, a rider crashed in front of me, and that pretty much put me off, and a few riders, you know, sitting up and standing around, so that stuffed me around a little bit at the start. But anyway, you know, I'm reasonably happy with the way things are going.
Well, after what you've done to get back to where you were, it's a pretty good result, even though you're not on the podium again.
No, I'm not on the podium, but you know, at least we know we can do it if we, you know, happen to get things right in qualifying. You know, if I was up with those front guys, it might have been a different story.
All right, mate, all the best, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, confirmation of those World Championship positions. Nicky Hayden still leads the World Championship after finishing 5th in the race this afternoon. But that lead has been slashed to 4 points. Moving into joint 2nd place, Marco Melandri and Loris Capirossi. They are just 4 points behind Nicky Hayden at the front after 5 exciting rounds. What a race this was. A little bit of sunshine as we started off, but it's Randy de Prunier going down at that very first chicane and out of the race. Almost takes Valentino Rossi with him. That's Sete Gibernau and Colin Edwards running into the dirt. That was the only way to go, and it was John Hopkins who led the way, absolutely flying. But Rossi, the man on the charge, goes past Loris Capirossi as if not standing still, almost standing still, and he is flying after starting from the 3rd row of the grid up the inside of Marco Melandri. And now the only man in front of him was John Hopkins. That didn't matter. He was soon past John Hopkins, and Danny Pedrosa followed suit, and Hopkins settled into 3rd place. Rossi, Pedrosa and Hopkins loses the front end of the Suzuki, crashes out of the race. He did remount to eventually finish in 15th place, still chasing that first podium finish. Rossi breaking Pedrosa's heart in the race, slowly but surely opening up that big advantage at the front. And And then Casey Stoner and Nicky Hayden having their own private battle for 4th place. And Valentino Rossi suddenly just breaking down and out of the race.
Nick, I've got Loris Capirossi with me. What a last couple of laps. Did you really get inspired when you saw Valentino off the side of the track?
Yeah, when I see Valentino and I say, sure, I am in the podium, but I have to try to finish second because I see Danny with some problems. I try to do my best. My bike and tire working so good, and I keep him and I finish second. I think this is the best race for us this year.
And that's one of the best brake checks I've ever seen.
Yeah, our bike is so good in the brake.
All right, all the best.
And here we go. We talked to Loris Capirossi, and then we watch him take over 2nd place on the very last lap from Danny Pedrosa. Alberto Boots can't believe it. Marco Melandri wins. Loris Capirossi in 2nd place. Danny Pedrosa 3rd. And the World Championship absolutely wide open. Nicky Hayden still leads the way, but 4 points between the men that finished 2nd and 3rd. Marco Melandri and Loris Capirossi share 2nd place.
What a race. There's still plenty of excitement down here in pit lane as well.
I can imagine so. Valentino Rossi, one cannot imagine how he feels.
Well,
So Italy, Spain, 3 flags waving in the considerable Le Mans breeze.
I don't think we're going to find out anytime soon how Valentino Rossi's feeling, especially after 2 DNFs in a row.
No tyre problems, of course, in China a week ago, and then a major mechanical problem when Valentino Rossi was winning this race very, very comfortably indeed. The podium awaits the arrival for the 2nd time this season. At the top of the podium, Marco Melandri. Loris Capirossi has tasted the top of that podium once. That was in the opening round of the championship at Jerez in Spain. Danny Pedrosa in 3rd place. Won the race just a week ago in China and started this particular encounter from pole position. I think they're pretty pleased at Ducati at the moment. All part of Danny Pedrosa's MotoGP education. He's done so well, we forget that it's only his 5th MotoGP race, and he's finished on the podium once again. A remarkable achievement from the 20-year-old from Sabadell. He doesn't look too disappointed about it, does he? Nah, he obviously wanted to win the race, but there's no doubt about who would have won the race if he hadn't had a mechanical problem. That would have been Valentino Rossi. Pedrosa then probably fancied his chances, but Melandri and Capirossi just fired them up, didn't it? They saw that yellow Yamaha off the track at the museum corner and said, right, we are going to go for it. Well, go for it they did.
It's 2 sides of the coin, isn't it, Nick? When they see him get in front, it's a psychological blow to them, and then they go, oh no, not Valentino again. But then to see him on the side of the track for the first time in living memory because of a mechanical fault, they've just gone, uh-oh, this is our big chance to do it, and they've just gone for it. And just inspired riding from both Capirossi and Melandri, whereas Pedrosa was just trying to hold station.
Tremendous French Grand Prix, all classes once again, 125, 250 and MotoGP. Join us in 2 weeks' time for what many people regard as the best Grand Prix of them all. Mugello in Italy, the Alici Grand Prix of Italy, round 6 of the championship. The sun usually shines, although we've had some pretty wet days there as well. But Valentino Rossi would have been desperate to go into that race with another victory under his belt, and also with that World Championship lead of Nicky Hayden considerably reduced. But at the moment, of course, Valentino Rossi just dropping off the pace. Nil point at the last 2 Grand Prix for the Doctor.
If you had your shoes and socks off, Nick, get the points tally up and see how far. He was 32 points coming into this race, so add at least 25 to that. He's going to be about, I'd say, 40 or 45 points behind now.
Yep. It's going to be a very big gap indeed. We've got to really just look at the front at the moment, where the gap of Nicky Hayden, who finished in a 5th place, reduced to just 4 points. And it's Marco Melandri and Loris Capirossi in 2nd place and poised to take over. Danny Pedrosa onto the podium for the 2nd MotoGP race in succession. Not on the top this time, but he's still finished 3rd and he's still picked up 16 vital points. Loris Capirossi has gone onto the podium. But coming onto that top step for the 2nd time this season, it's Marco Melandri.
And he gives it a kiss as well. Good on him.
Italy fights back as well, doesn't it? So Spain in third place, 2 Italian flags there. Big flags here at Le Mans.
Well, I've seen Italians win 3 of the 5 GPs so far this year.
So presentation to Danny Pedrosa. Last week it was a first place. This time it's still a podium finish and 16 World Championship points. His parents look on. I'm proud of the young son, 20 years old. 3 World Championships already under his belt. And a MotoGP debut that has been truly startling. Really at the other end of the scale, Loris Capirossi, again on 125 and 250cc world champion, 33 years old and still up there with the very best. Ducati fight back and Loris Capirossi second here and back into second place in the World Championship.
Wasn't that interesting, Nick? He said that's the race of the year, considering he won the opening race of the year at a Rev.
But the winner this afternoon, Christian Estrosi, the Minister Delegate here at Le Mans, presenting Marco Melandri, the winner of the French Grand Prix here at Le Mans, his second Grand Prix victory of an incredible MotoGP season. Now the team prize will go to Fausto Grassini. Vanessa Hessler again from Alici, France. Gives the Italian a kiss. Former champion himself. Is he breeding a MotoGP world champion? He well could be, because Melandri right back in the reckoning. Just 4 points now behind Nicky Hayden. Wow, the Italian national anthem. Perhaps not the rider we may have expected celebrating with it after Valentino Rossi seemed to be dominating the race before retiring with mechanical problems. Well, Marco Melandri was the man to win the last 2 Grand Prix of last season and really gave a tough time to Valentino Rossi in those races. Finished second in the World Championship. Difficult start to his season this year, but he won in Turkey. He's won here in Le Mans, and he's right back in contention.